Welcome back, dear viewers. You're watching Nile TV International and a new edition of the Breakfast Show live on Nile TV International. And it's now time for our first topic of discussion for today. And in this segment, we're going to be talking about some successful Muslim youth that could be ambassadors, that each in his own field. And we're having today a model of this young Muslim, and she's living in the U.S., and we're going to be having the pleasure to talk to her about these examples. And we're most delighted to be joined by Rania Ayoub, and she's the Director of Public Relations at the Muslim Educational Trust at the United States of America. First of all, good morning, and thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Rania, first of all, let me ask you about what are you doing exactly, and tell us about the role, of course, as long as you are talking also about the youth in this area.
Absolutely. So in my role as Director of Public Relations at the Muslim Educational Trust, I work a lot with the public in general, whether any of the media that we send out to tell people about the work that we do, all the outreach work that we do, all the interfaith work that we do, any communication with the outside world, I take care of that. But also part of my work there is working with the youth. So I work with high school students, and I mostly do community service work. All the projects that we work on are directly benefiting the community as well as the larger community as well, not just the Muslim community. So I work with them on a lot of projects throughout the year. And I also, part of my work is to do event planning for the organization. We have a pre-K to 12th grade program. It's a school, it's a private school that we have at the trust. And it's the high school students from that school that I directly work with.
And if you could tell us more about how is it now, given the current developments taking place worldwide, as a Muslim living in the United States?
It's very obvious to everybody that Islamophobia has been on the rise for a while, ever since 9/11, but it seems to be getting worse and worse now with definitely all the negative rhetoric that was in the media during the presidential elections and all the campaigning that was happening. But the Muslim community itself, whether in Oregon or in other parts of the states, are working very closely with the other faith-based communities and other nonprofit organizations in their states to combat the stereotypes and to combat the Islamophobia that's going on, which is great news. I mean, that's a plus. So in Oregon specifically, our youth continue to do their projects, continue to do their work, and through those projects is where they display themselves as ambassadors, as young Muslim ambassadors. And when people see that these youth are coming and doing jobs and doing all those helpful things to the community, that's when the stereotypes start to change, which we just have to keep doing the work that we do.
Could you tell us more about the entrepreneurship when it comes to the projects you are talking about on the role of the youth?
Absolutely, yeah. We offered a class for our high school students. It's called the LEE, Leadership Entrepreneurship Engagement. So part of that LEE class was for them to come up with a project, the students, on their own that they would like to start up their own business. And in fact, we encourage them to start that business if needed. So one of the groups, you would be surprised, a lot of them thought of very interesting nonprofit ideas. But one of the groups thought of a for-profit idea, which still had a nonprofit component in it. They were going to develop PCs for nonprofit organizations who can't afford perhaps to get the latest in technology. So they themselves would put together the PCs, the computers, and they would buy the parts. And then they would work with companies like Intel, because Intel has a huge, of course, site in Oregon. And they would work with other high-tech companies to get the products from them, the internal products. They assemble the computers, and then they sell them at a very low cost to nonprofit organizations. So they make a little bit of a profit margin, but at the same time, they've helped the community, and they've done something that they like. So that was one of the projects that was very impressive as part of the work that they did.
Also, if you can tell us, you can name some other good examples or projects that the youth had implemented in this regard or in different domains?
Sure. In the community service field with the Youth Ambassadors Club that I work with closely, on a regular basis we meet at the beginning of the year, and then we kind of decide on what projects we're going to be working on throughout the year. One of the yearly projects we always work on is the beach cleanup, which is an excellent program. Along the Oregon coast, an organization called Solve, they put together this day where anybody who wants to volunteer can come out and clean the beach. which is an excellent idea. I wish we can implement something similar to it here. Anybody is more than welcome to come and volunteer. Families go out, organizations send their employees, because it's usually on a Saturday, nice weather, in the end of March. It happens every year at the end of March, and everybody goes out and they have prepared their t-shirts for the volunteers, they have the bags, and everybody just cleans the beach throughout the coast, along the entire coast, depending on where you live. So that's one of the projects that we really enjoy doing every year.
You said something actually very important, because I was just going to ask you how to take benefit of this, because you mentioned you wish to see this in Egypt. So I was going to ask you, how far can the youth here, Egyptian youth here in their country, they can do something like this, or to be an active member actually in the society he's living in?
It's very easy to implement and it's very easy to implement in the high school years as well. They can do it in college too. But if you start in high school and you have a club, you form a club in the school that is primarily community service, that's what their goal. They meet once a week to plan those kinds of events. The bodies are here, the people are here. We have a lot of people who can help. And you can open it up to the public as well, whoever wants to volunteer, but somebody needs to organize it. So if some kind of nonprofit would take leadership in organizing the trip itself, they can choose one of the parks or one of the beaches, you will get the volunteers. I'm sure a lot of people would want to help. And
we have seen similar scenes back following the 2011 revolution, but unfortunately it was inconsistent, so we're hoping that...
If you do it on a regular basis, where it's a club in a school, and then it gets duplicated in different schools, where those students are always called the Youth Ambassadors Club or whatever, they have their own slogan. Our students have their own slogan, which it says, giving you hope wherever you are. It's a very simple slogan, but it goes a long way, especially in a society like the US, where people usually see Muslims in a very negative way. So when they see youth going out, girls wearing their hijab and boys, they look, of course, that they're from minority groups and they're helping out people. It goes a long way and definitely helps with the stereotypes.
Actually, I will consider it also as building the personality of the young generation, because we are not talking about universities or college, we are talking about the high school, which really I like the idea. We talk a lot about how we can work with the educational system in Egypt, but this is exactly what we need. It is not the curriculum. And adding to this, for example, in different countries, sometimes high school, they send the children or the students to work during the summer or even during the academic year, and they have some grades out of that work. They can work wherever they want, actually, just to gain experience, not to gain money, but to gain experience. You think we can apply it here?
Absolutely. It's actually required in every high school that the students need to volunteer a certain number of hours every year to graduate from high school in the first place. So that's part...
Not to study from the book.
Exactly. Just to volunteer. That's required of everybody. They can volunteer anywhere. So it is a requirement, so that's why we make use of that. We give them those projects. Another project that we always like to work on is called Habitat for Humanity. Habitat for Humanity is a nonprofit organization in Oregon. They build homes at low costs. And the way they build those homes is they use volunteers to build the homes. Of course, they have the architects and the engineers that can oversee the construction, but it's really people like us who go and build those homes. So I take the students, the high school students again, and we go build houses. And it's a very enriching experience for the boys and girls to go out and actually use the hammers and do and then leave and drive the next day and know that they've contributed to building a window in that house, even though it's very small, but they built it.
Even he has no experience, but...
No, exactly. You don't have to have experience. They will show you how to do it, and they'll give you tasks that you can follow. And at the end of the day, you've helped a needy family, because that's someone who can't afford to buy a house at a regular price, and that's why they're going to Habitat for Humanity. So those kinds of projects can easily be implemented here. The manpower is available, the students are available, it gives them leadership skills, it gives them self-confidence. And after all those projects, when they go out and they talk about them, it gives them also an added value in their CVs when they're applying for colleges, because colleges in the US always look for those kinds of experiences. They don't always look for just the good grades and the high GPA and the SAT scores. They always want to see that this individual is well-rounded, they have good knowledge, they have experience, life experience. So I think it's an excellent way of engaging the youth, keeping them away from anything that's harmful. Sports is great. We like to encourage our students also to be very active in sports. But those kinds of activities and community service also gives them a sense of belonging, that they are ambassadors out there to give a good image about their faith. So that's another added value as well to what they're doing.
Does it acquire a certain or specific skills in order to be part of such a program?
For our specific school, it's the students who have who are part of the honor society, because the honor society is also another program. But it doesn't have to be. You can start it at any school, at any level. You can put any requirements you want. And I have 10 students at this point in time. Every year it's a little bit different depending on how many students are in the honor society. But you don't have to make it a requirement. You can have different clubs doing different things at the same time as well.
And of course, asking about these students, are they all Egyptians, are they all Muslims, or it is a mix, anyone can join? And
it's a mix, actually. Anybody can join. I do happen to have a number of Egyptian students in the club, but it's a mix because the Muslim community in Oregon is very diverse. We have about 150 students in the entire school from pre-K to 12th grade, and we represent at least 32 countries. So it's a very, very diverse group. But at one point in time, I had 3 Egyptians out of the 10. Which was a third, almost a little bit more than a third. So yeah, it's a very, and they work together very well because the core values are the same.
I think this is the most important part because the cooperation between all these nationalities with different backgrounds, I think this is the core of the project.
Absolutely, and they have the same mission, they carry the same slogan. We every year we change the color of the t-shirts just to make it more fun. They get to choose what t-shirts they want. They get to choose the projects we work on. One of the other projects as well they always like to work on is Feed the Hungry campaign. Every year, one of the local organizations, we partner with them and we get empty boxes, huge boxes and bins that we fill them with food. So we send out emails and we talk to the parents and ask them to donate non-perishable food that's in cans so it won't go bad. And we usually collect over 400 pounds of food every year and we donate it to that organization, which then goes to the food bank, which then gets used by even the Muslim community as well, because there are low-income Muslims in that area. So it's a full circle of helping your own community, but at the same time helping the larger community. And when you get this exposure to the outside world, they get a lot of benefits, and the outside world learns a lot about the Muslim community through those kinds of projects, which is the best way to role model yourself.
Yes. Having that said, have you thought of collaborating with NGOs here in Egypt since you're interested in the community service and helping the poor and needy? Have you thought of something like that?
Absolutely. We've actually considered perhaps partnering with Rotary Club here in Egypt and perhaps bringing students on a trip to Egypt.
Such a, like part of an exchange program or
exactly,
something?
Yeah. We haven't done that yet, but we have started the conversation to maybe collaborate with Rotary Club and bring them to a specific project that Rotary is going to be working here. We have Rotary Clubs in Portland, Oregon, a lot of them, and we're hoping that we can do that one day so that they get the international experience as well, not just the local.
And what about cooperating with schools directly, not only with NGOs?
Here in Egypt?
Yes.
It would be great if we can do that. We collaborated with a number of schools inside of Oregon, private schools that are separate from ours, but it would be great if we can collaborate with schools here as well. And perhaps
sometimes there are international schools that we can talk about, whether we're talking about schools in the United States and we have the branch in Egypt or something like this. Can we help also in this respect?
Absolutely, we can get the conversation started, and if the schools are interested, we can perhaps do a presentation or a Skype conversation on how we do it in the US and how we can model the same structure here and get the collaboration started. Absolutely, yeah.
Also, speaking about challenges, have you faced any challenges in regards to your field or promoting it?
Well, I would say the number one challenge is the stereotypes that a lot of people have. Our students also face, the regular stereotypes when they go to the mall. They get looks. When they go, to certain places, people don't always know about Islam and Muslims, so they get asked questions. I've had a number of students actually who've had negative remarks in grocery stores or in Target and stores like that, specifically targeting that they're terrorists and those kinds of terms that they use sometimes. But I have to say it's very minimal. It's not overwhelming, especially in Oregon. It's a very liberal society, and I have to say, overall, we don't have a lot of negative experiences. We have very positive experiences, and we also, perhaps because we partnered with a lot of the local organizations, whether they're nonprofits or faith-based organizations, the Christian and the Jewish synagogues and the Christian churches. We've partnered with a lot of them in Oregon. So I have to say, for the most part, we've had very positive experiences.
But talking about the challenges that you can see and how can this help in building the personality of the children? I'm talking about Egyptians in Egypt, actually. How can this help to change the personality of the youth and the students? Because I always say, forget about the universities. You won't be able to change a lot. But I'm talking about the schools. You're talking about the new generation to come.
Well, absolutely. If you start even in middle school, it's not too late. I mean, it's not too early. You can start in middle school, and if you get this idea
at which age?
So middle school is 6th grade. Grade 6.
You started at grade 6.
We started actually in 8th grade and then higher. For the Youth Ambassadors Club when we first started. Right now it's only high school, so it's 9th grade, and 9, 10, 11, 12, the last 4 years in the schooling system. But you can start as early as 6th grade, because at that age, at 6th grade, that would be maybe 12 or even 11 years old, they are ready to do community service work. They're
maybe
ready
something
to help
that can go with their age.
Exactly, something that's simpler than building a house or I mean, beach cleanup is good for anybody, any age. So if you start early on and try to instill this value of helping others and being of value to everybody around you at an earlier age, it makes it a lot easier when they're older to think about their own ideas of how they can help others and how they can be an added value to the society. Because you also want to make sure that the world views them as an added value to the society, not just within themselves, or their own smaller community. So if you can get that started at a younger age, I think it helps a lot. When they get to the age where they're at high school, then they will even have their own innovative ideas of what they want to do to help others.
Well, I think, of course, this is something of great importance, because talking about the challenges we are facing, we can see a lot of students and they have some time. Yeah. Or you have a lot of time, actually, they are spending on the social media. Absolutely. And even the social media, they are not using it properly. And unfortunately, we always talk about the absence of the parents as well. So from here, it comes the necessity of something like such projects. I think it will help a lot. Absolutely. Yes.
And they can even use social media to promote the work that they're doing. So a lot of times the student would post on social media that we're going to the beach to do the cleanup. Would you like to join us? And that brings more people. And then they post afterwards pictures of the project that they did. So social media comes in handy as well in those kinds of experiences. That they can
accepting
use
the other. Because we always talk about this as well. We have to learn how to accept the other, the same as he is.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. And collaborating and working together, there's nothing better than having one goal and one mission, and then getting everybody wrapped around that mission and everybody working together. And that's when you produce the best outcomes, when you partner together.
But do you think that's easy? I don't think, like, bringing all the diverse and cosmopolitan society to come together and to unite, I think I believe it's difficult.
It is. It can be difficult, but if you start small and then you start building your collaborations or making your partnerships, then it's easier. Because if you start with the people you're most familiar with, it'll be easier for them to work together. If the students are in one school together, they already know each other and the teachers know them. So start small and then contact a school that you already have a relationship with and get a group started there. Yeah. Then get them together
it's
to
like
do one
some
group.
Sort of snowball effect.
Exactly, and then get the two groups to do one project together, and then when they have fun, they have a celebration after they're done with the cleanup or whatever they're done, then get a third group as part of that, and then that's how you grow partnerships.
Yes. As we're wrapping it up, your final recommendations or message that you'd like to convey?
I would like the youth to focus on how they can help their country, how they can help their community, how they can think of ideas that are innovative and for them to be an added value to the society. I'm hoping that something like this would encourage youth here in Egypt, all over the nation, to get together and actually work on those kinds of projects.
Yes, thank you so much for your insight, Ms. Rania Ayoub, advisor of the MET, the Muslim Educational Trust of the United States. Oregon, thank you so much for joining us on Nile TV International on The Breakfast Show.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And dear viewers, now we move on to a short break and we'll be resuming the remaining segments of The Breakfast Show live on Nile TV International. Stay locked up.